There are truths so intense that they don't illuminate, but burn. Kafka left us 7 of them, and if you dare to hear them, you may never see the world the same way again. Have you ever had that strange feeling that something is wrong with the world, as if everyone is following rules that no one has properly explained? Franz Kafka felt this way too. He was a writer who lived a long time ago, but his ideas seemed as if they were written yesterday, or even tomorrow. Kafka saw what many of us try not to see, that we live in a world full of meaningless rules, doors that lead nowhere, empty promises. A world where we sometimes feel like small, fragile insects. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you thought was important, your job, your phone, your clothes, your worries may not matter so much after all. It would be scary, wouldn't it? But it could also be liberating. It's like when you're dreaming and suddenly realize, hey, this is just a dream. In that moment, the dream changes completely. The rules break. You can fly, walk through walls, do the impossible. Kafka wants to awaken us from this dream we call normal life. But be careful. Unlike happy dreams, this awakening can hurt, it can burn, it can make you question everything. The 7 truths I'm about to share aren't for those seeking comfort. They're for those who have the courage to stare into the abyss and not look away. They're for those who sense something deeper lurking behind the curtains of reality. If you read on, consider yourself warned. These words may change the way you see the world forever. Some people call it a curse, others call it freedom. What will you call it? The empty routine, the mechanical work, the superficial relationships that don't truly touch us. A theater of soulless gestures, where every smile is a mask and every step is a repetition. The modern world is a Kafkaesque castle, full of doors, but none of them lead anywhere. Have you ever felt like you're just pretending to live? Like you're following a script written by someone else? Kafka saw this pain that many of us carry in silence. Think about Monday mornings. The alarm clock goes off. You get up, brush your teeth, eat something quick, rush to school or work. Do the same things you always do. Answer the same questions, smile the same smiles, and when someone asks, "How are you?" you reply, "I'm fine," even when you're not. It's a strange pain because it doesn't have a specific place in the body. It's not like a bruised knee or a headache. It's the pain of existing in a world that seems to make no sense, but everyone pretends it does. Kafka wrote about characters trapped in absurd situations. In one of his most famous stories, a man wakes up transformed into a giant insect. His family is horrified. His boss is furious because he's going to be late for work. No one seems to realize the absurdity of the situation. Isn't that how we feel sometimes? Like we're living through something completely absurd, but everyone around us continues to act as if everything is normal. Look at the people on buses, subways, and in lines. Empty eyes, tired faces. Everyone's heading somewhere, but do they know why? Or are they just following orders from an invisible system that no one questions? What about relationships? How many conversations do you have a day that are just empty words? How are you okay? How's the weather? It's hot. Words that say nothing, that touch nothing inside us. The modern world is like the castle in Kafka's books, a vast place full of doors, corridors, and rooms. But when we try to reach the center, we find it impossible. Each door leads to more doors, each answer leads to more questions, and we never get to where it really matters. It's an invisible prison. It has no bars we can see or touch, but it's there, preventing us from truly living, truly feeling, truly being who we are. If this has already spoken to you, subscribe now and leave a like so you don't miss the next videos. Kafka said, "A book must be the axe that breaks the icy sea within us." In other words, words don't exist to comfort, but to destroy illusions. Just like his writing, life doesn't give us answers, only abysses disguised as paths. Kafka didn't write for another time, he wrote for today. When Kafka spoke of a frozen sea within us, he was talking about something we all have, a hard, cold, dormant part, a part that has forgotten what it's like to feel things deeply, a part that is frozen by fear, by exhaustion, by the rules we mindlessly follow. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to spend days, weeks, even months on automatic? Wake up, eat, work, sleep, repeat like a robot programmed to always do the same things. That's the sea ice, the ability to live without actually being alive. And what does Kafka want? For words to be like an axe, something strong, sharp, that breaks things. He doesn't want us to read his stories and think, how cute or how interesting. He wants us to feel a shock, a fright, a painful awakening. Because sometimes pain is necessary for growth. Like a vaccine that hurts a little but protects us from worse diseases. When you read Kafka, you don't find happy endings or clear lessons. You find characters lost in worlds that don't make sense, struggling against invisible rules, trying to achieve impossible goals. Like Joseph K., who is imprisoned without knowing why. Like the surveyor K., who never makes it to the castle where he's supposed to work. Like Gregor Samsa, who turns into an insect and remains preoccupied with his work. These are stories that seem like nightmares, but here's the secret. Our real world sometimes feels like a nightmare too, only we pretend it doesn't. We pretend everything makes sense, that the rules are fair, that we know where we're going. Kafka doesn't give us easy answers. In fact, he doesn't give us any answers at all. He simply shows us the abyss, that terrifying void we feel when we realize we might not know as much about life as we thought. And that's revolutionary, because when we accept that we don't know, that's when we truly begin to learn. Kafka's stories were written over 100 years ago, but they seem to speak directly to us today, about what it's like to feel small in a world that's too big, about what it's like to want to be heard when no one is really listening, about what it's like to try to find meaning when everything seems absurd. Kafka didn't write to console, he wrote to awaken, and perhaps that's what we need more than anything else, an awakening. Social media is the new infinite bureaucracy, invisible forms we fill out with every click, every like, every scrap of attention. Life has become a spectacle, but no one knows who's watching. We are prosecuted by invisible courts, judged by anonymous gazers, condemned to the emptiness of never being enough. If Kafka were alive today, perhaps he wouldn't need to invent strange worlds for his stories. He'd just need to look at our cell phones, our online lives, the way we exist on social media. Think about it. Every time you post a photo, you're filling out some kind of invisible form. Look at me, approve of me, tell me I'm beautiful, interesting, special. It's as if we're constantly sending paperwork to a mysterious department, waiting for someone up there to stamp approved on our existence. In the trial, Kafka wrote about Joseph K., a man imprisoned without knowing his crime, tried by a court he can never find. Isn't that how we feel when we post something online and no one reacts? As if we've made some terrible mistake but no one tells us what it was. And what about infinite scrolling? That up and up motion of your finger, never reaching the end. It's like the endless corridors of Kafkaesque buildings, where characters walk and walk without ever reaching their destination. What are we looking for, anyway? Do we even know? We become actors in a strange theater. We post pictures of food that isn't always that tasty. We pretend to be happy when we're sad. We only show the best moments, the prettiest angles, the most impressive achievements. And for what? To an audience that might not even be watching, just skimming while waiting for their turn to show off. And the worst part, we create invisible courts. We judge and are constantly judged. That person has more likes, that influencer has more followers, that family seems happier, that body seems more perfect. And we always feel lacking, always owing something, always a little less than we should be. As in Kafka's books, we are trapped in a system whose rules have never been clearly explained. No one told us we would have to compete for attention, that our self-esteem would depend on virtual hearts, that our lives would be measured by metrics and algorithms. It's a system that never stops, that never sleeps, that never says, enough, you've done enough. There's always more to scroll through, more to like, more to post, more to compare, and perhaps the most Kafkaesque of all, even knowing it's not good for us, we carry on. Like Kafka's characters who, even in the face of absurdity, continue to follow the rules of worlds that make no sense. Comment here, which part of your life seems most like absurd theater? It's not just the world that suffocates us. Sometimes we are the ones reinforcing the bars. We are both the jailer and the prisoner. Kafka whispers that the absurd isn't just in the system, it lives within us, in the thoughts that repeat. I can't, I'm not, I don't deserve. Here's a hard truth to face. Often we are the ones who build our own prisons. Think about the times you wanted to do something different, something new, something that truly mattered to you. What stopped you? Was it the outside world? Or was it a voice inside your head? Kafka understood something profound about human beings. We fear freedom. Freedom is frightening because it comes with responsibility. It's easier to blame the system, others, the world. It's harder to admit that sometimes we choose to stay in prison because we fear what lies outside. In one of his stories, An Imperial Message, Kafka tells of an important message that never reaches its destination. The messenger tries and tries, but there are so many obstacles, so many walls, so many people in the way. The message is never delivered. What's the important message inside you that's never been delivered? What's the dream, the desire, the truth that you carry but never let out into the world? Maybe it's something you've wanted to say to someone important. Maybe it's a talent you've never developed. Maybe it's simply the person you truly are, hidden beneath all the layers of shoulds, needs, and have-tos. The negative thoughts we have about ourselves are like stern guards who don't let us out of the cell. I'm not good enough. They'll laugh at me. It's too late. People like me don't do things like that. Each of these thoughts is another padlock on the door that separates us from freedom. And the saddest thing is that, over time we get used to prison. We memorize the walls, we make friends with the guards. We forget there's a world out there. We forget that we could be free. Kafka shows us this uncomfortable mirror. Sometimes, the oppressive system we so often criticize is within us. We are the ones who censor ourselves before the world even has a chance to censor us. We are the ones who give up before even trying. And why? Out of fear. Fear of failure, fear of suffering, fear of discovering that we might not be who we think we are. But what if fear is just that, a thought, not a reality? What if the bars are made not of iron but of ideas we can question? The first step to freedom may be realizing that we often have the key in our pocket. We always have. Facing the absurd is the only way. It's not about running away from the void. nor covering your eyes. It's about sitting before it and listening to the silence. True courage isn't about eliminating the darkness, but about walking within it without giving up. There's a famous story about Kafka. It said he was in a park when he saw a little girl crying. When he asked what had happened, she said she'd lost her doll. Kafka then invented a story that the doll wasn't lost, but had gone traveling. He began writing letters to the girl, pretending to be the doll, telling her about his adventures around the world. What does this story teach us? That even in the face of loss, emptiness, and absurdity, we can create meaning, not by escaping reality, but by transforming it through our imagination and courage. The absurdity of life is like a great black hole at the center of existence. We can spend our entire lives running from it, creating distractions, pretending it's not there. We can stuff ourselves with work, consumption, and noise, just to avoid having to face it. But Kafka suggests another path. What if, instead of running away, we sat on the edge of this abyss? What if we looked into it without fear? Maybe emptiness isn't our enemy. Maybe it's just a blank space, an empty canvas, waiting for us to create something in it. True courage isn't about not being afraid. Everyone is afraid. True courage is about feeling fear and keeping going anyway. It's like learning to swim. At first, water seems strange, threatening. We're afraid of sinking, of not being able to breathe. But if we face this fear, if we learn to move in the water, we discover a new freedom, a feeling of floating that we can only experience when we face what scares us. The same happens with the absurdity of life. When we accept that not everything makes sense, that not everything has a clear explanation, when we stop demanding that the universe behave according to our expectations, that's when we begin to find a new freedom. It's not perfect freedom. It's not an answer to everything. It's simply the freedom to be honest with yourself, to live without so many illusions, to accept the strangeness of existence. In the short story The Burrow, Kafka writes about an animal who spends his life building a perfect underground refuge, protected from all dangers. But the more he fortifies his burrow, the more paranoid he becomes about the possibility of intruders. In the end, his quest for absolute safety becomes a prison. Isn't that what we do? We build fortresses of certainties, routines, and beliefs, thinking that this will keep us safe. But these same fortresses can become our prisons. Kafka's invitation is for us to leave our burrows, at least for a moment, to face the absurd, to walk in the darkness. Write in the comments, do you face the void or run away from it? Kafka teaches us that emptiness isn't just loss, it's also space. Nothingness is fertile because it shows us that everything we believed solid can be rebuilt. The absurd can be the beginning of a more honest freedom. Emptiness is not an enemy, it's a mirror. Imagine a room completely filled with furniture, objects and things piled from floor to ceiling. There's no room to move, to breathe, to dance. Now imagine the same room, completely empty. At first it may seem scary and lonely, but it's also a space full of possibilities. You can dance, run, draw on the floor, invite friends over, transform it into whatever you want. Emptiness is like that. When we lose something we thought was important, an idea, a belief, a relationship, a path in life, we feel a hole inside us. But this hole is also a space where new things can be born. Kafka lived in a time of great change. The old world was crumbling, and a new, more mechanical, more bureaucratic world was emerging. He felt this emptiness, this absurdity, this sense that nothing made sense. But instead of trying to escape this feeling, he plunged into it. And from there, from the depths of this abyss, he brought forth his strange, disturbing, but also profoundly true stories. It's as if Kafka is saying, yes, the world is absurd. Yes, it often doesn't make sense. And yes, it can be frightening. But it can also be liberating. Because when we accept that there is no grand plan, that there are no rules written in the stars, that many of the structures we consider important are actually just human constructions, well, that means we can build again. We can build differently. Think of a child playing in the sand at the beach. They build an elaborate castle, complete with towers, bridges, and moats. It takes hours, and then a wave comes and destroys everything. What does the child do? They cry a little, maybe. But then they start building again, maybe a different castle. Maybe not even a castle this time, but a sand monster or an entire city. The void is like this wave. It destroys what we have built with so much care, but it also gives us a chance to start over, to create something different, maybe even better. Emptiness is not an enemy, it's a mirror. What does that mean? It means that when everything is stripped away from us, our distractions, our certainties, our comfortable routines, what's left is ourselves, reflected in the mirror of nothingness. And perhaps it is there, in this honest confrontation with ourselves, that we can finally discover who we really are, what we really want, what truly matters. Kafka doesn't offer us easy answers. He doesn't say, do this and you'll be happy, or believe that and everything will make sense. He simply shows us the absurd and invites us to face it head-on. And in this invitation there's a strange hope, the hope that, even in a meaningless world, we can create our own meaning. What about you? How many times have you felt like your life was an endless process, where each day seems like just another stamped, worthless page? How many times have you looked in the mirror and not recognized yourself, as if you were living someone else's life? Someone replaceable, disposable. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Now, think, how much of your life did you truly choose, and how much simply happened, like a series of accidents, other people's expectations, paths of least resistance? There's a scene that plays out in many people's lives. You're at a party, or a dinner, or a family gathering. Someone asks a seemingly simple question, "So, how's life?" And you respond with the usual script. "Okay, I work a lot, but it's okay." You smile. You change the subject. But inside you a small muffled voice screams, "It's not okay. I don't know what I'm doing. Is this all there is? Is this all there is?" It's a voice we try to silence with constant busyness, with distractions, with more work, more shopping, more series to watch, more endless scrolling on social media. Anything to avoid hearing that voice, to avoid facing that question. Kafka understood this feeling. In his diary he wrote, "Life is simply terrible. I feel it as others do. I often cannot control my anxiety. I cannot explain my depression. But still I am generally satisfied with myself. I simply know nothing better than to be and to suffer." How many times have you felt like you're just passing through time, waiting for something to happen, for something to change, for something to begin, as if your real life is always in the future, after you get that job, after you meet that person, after you buy that house, after you lose that weight? And meanwhile, the now, the only moment that truly exists, slips through your fingers. Kafka teaches us to view this feeling not as a flaw or a weakness, but as an awakening. The discomfort we feel with the empty routine, with the days that repeat themselves, with superficial relationships. This discomfort is valuable. It's a sign that we're alive, that we haven't completely given up, that there's still within us a desire for something more authentic, more true. Look in the mirror again. Who is this person looking back at you? What do they really want? What makes them feel alive, connected, present? What would make their eyes shine again, the way they did when you were a child? Maybe you don't have answers to these questions, and that's okay. Kafka didn't have all the answers either. What he did have, on what is perhaps most valuable, were the right questions. Questions that wake us up, that shake us out of the torpor of routine. And this is perhaps Kafka's greatest contribution, showing us that it is better to be lost in searching than to blindly follow a path we did not choose. You are irreplaceable. Your experience is unique. Your voice matters, even in a world that often seems designed to make us feel small, disposable, interchangeable like the cogs in a vast machine. You are not. You are a mystery, a possibility, an entire universe of thoughts, dreams, and desires that has never existed before and will never exist again. After a certain point, there is no return. That's the point we need to reach. This is the Kafkaesque mantra, not to run from the edge of the abyss, but to accept it as part of the journey. When you look at the absurd and don't look away, that's when something awakens. There comes a time in every person's life when they reach a crossroads. On one side, the familiar path, safe, predictable, and comfortable. On the other, the unknown, frightening, uncertain, but also full of possibilities. Most people choose the familiar path. It's natural, it's human. Fear of the unknown is in our DNA, protecting us for thousands of years, but Kafka invites us to consider the alternative, and not just consider it, but embrace it. After a certain point, there is no return. That is the point we need to reach. Think about those words for a moment. Kafka isn't talking about a geographic point, a spot on a map. He's talking about a point within ourselves, a moment of decision, an instant of clarity. It's like jumping off a cliff into the water below. There's that moment, mid-air, when you realize, I can't turn back now. I can only move forward, fall into the water, face whatever comes. This moment, this point of no return, is terrifying, but it's also liberating. Because when we accept that we can't go back, we stop wasting energy wishing things were different. We stop clinging to the past, to the familiar, to the comfortable. We begin to invest all our energy in the present, in the challenge ahead, in reality as it is, not as we wish it were. The absurdity of life, this feeling that things don't make sense, that we're trapped in systems we didn't choose, that the world doesn't care about our plans and dreams, can be overwhelming. It can make us want to give up, hide, and distract ourselves until the end of our days. But Kafka suggests another approach. Looking directly at the absurd, don't look away, don't pretend it doesn't exist. But also don't surrender to it. Don't let it define our entire existence. It's like that old story about the man who encountered a tiger in the forest. He ran with the tiger hot on his heels until he reached the edge of a cliff. Below him, another tiger waited. With no way out, he clung to a vine growing on the side of the cliff. While hanging there, he saw a small wild strawberry growing in a crevice in the rock. He plucked it and ate it. How sweet it was. The man was trapped between two tigers, clinging to a fragile vine. His situation was absurd, desperate, but in that moment, he was able to appreciate the sweetness of the strawberry. This is the freedom Kafka offers us. It's not a freedom from external circumstances. The tigers are still there. The cliff is still there. It's an inner freedom. The freedom to find beauty, meaning, and sweetness even in the midst of the absurd. When we look at the absurd and don't look away, something changes inside us. It's not that the world suddenly makes sense. It's that we stop demanding it make sense. And in this surrender, in this acceptance, we find a strange peace, a clarity we hadn't known before. It's as if, by accepting that we are lost, we can finally begin to find our own way. These are Kafka's 7 truths. They don't come to console, but to open wounds that may already be there, hidden. Now the ritual is yours. If this message touched you, write in the comments, "I accept the void." We've reached the end of our journey through Kafka's 7 truths. Truths that aren't easy to hear, but that can transform the way you see the world and yourself. First truth: the modern world is full of empty routines, mechanical work and superficial relationships. A theater where everyone pretends, but no one truly lives. Second truth: words, like life, are not here to comfort us, but to awaken us, to break the icy sea within us, to show us abysses where we sought paths. Third truth: we live in invisible bureaucratic systems, from social media to social norms, where we are constantly judged, condemned to the feeling of never being enough. Fourth truth: often we ourselves build our prisons, the jailer and the prisoner. The absurdity isn't just out there, but also in the thoughts that limit who we can be. Fifth truth: the only way out is to face the absurdity head-on, not to run away from the void, but to sit before it and listen to what it has to say. Courage is not eliminating darkness, but learning to walk within it. Sixth truth: emptiness is not just loss, it is also space. A place where we can rebuild, reinvent, and be reborn. A mirror where, finally, we can see ourselves as we truly are. Seventh truth: there is a point of no return, a moment when we look at the absurd and don't look away. It is at that moment that something awakens within us, a new, more honest, more real freedom. These truths don't come easily. They don't come to make you feel better, at least not immediately. They come to shake you, to question you, to disturb you. As Kafka wrote, a book must be the axe that breaks the icy sea within us, but there is a strange hope in these difficult truths, the hope that by facing the absurd, by accepting the void, we can find a more authentic way to exist, not as cogs in a giant machine, not as actors in a meaningless theater, but as whole human beings, with all our contradictions, doubts, and possibilities. The ritual is now yours. If these words touched something within you, if they broke, even a little, the icy sea within your chest, write in the comments, "I accept the void." It's not a surrender, it's a beginning. It's saying, yes, I see the absurdity, I see the emptiness, and I'm not going to pretend they're not there anymore. I'm going to face them and maybe find my own way through them. You're not alone on this journey. There are others like you, seeking a more authentic, more meaningful life, even in a world that often seems designed to make us forget who we truly are. And don't forget, watch the video on the card, because there we continue our journey through this labyrinth we call life.